Thank you for turning to page 121. I've searched far and wide to get my co-stars here today. This is my son Pat and my son Adam. We're going to be discussing Walpurgis. We're going to recap what happened last week at the game, and then we're going to talk about some of the more famous Walpurgis encounters that I've done. So let's go. What do you want? Start with last week's game. There were 6 people in the game, and I got all 6. What I did is something I've never done before. For reasons in our personal lives, we're not going to really be together as a full group for the entire month of October. So I decided to surprise everybody and throw in a Walpurgis that they didn't know was coming. That was a hard secret to keep. I worked on it for weeks, and I had to keep my mouth shut. That was tough. But I did come up with a game. We ran from 7 to 10 on weeknight last week, and at 8:30 was when I finally announced, hey guys, this is a Walpurgis. I took up half the game and decided the other half would be the Walpurgis intentional kills and things like that. Oh, I guess I should do a quick recap on what Walpurgis is. Anybody who hasn't seen a Walpurgis game or be talking about them, Walpurgis is our Halloween game. We do it every year, or almost every year. And I've been doing it since 1982. And the idea is that I come up with chumpy ways to kill the players, and the players come up with ways to stay alive. Nothing counts. It doesn't count against the campaign or their characters, which is fun because then they can use up magic items they wouldn't otherwise touch and things like that. And they get a chance to kind of pull out all the stops. That was the original idea behind Walpurgis. And for people who've commented, yes, I know Walpurgis takes place from April 30th to May 1st. It's a spring festival. I understand that. St. Walpurga. I've read a lot about Walpurgis. I wanted a neat name for a Halloween game without calling it a Halloween game. I chose Walpurgis. It's just an aesthetic thing. There you go. So I've done them. You guys have been in at least at the 10 to 12 each.
By this point.
Yeah.
College.
Oh yeah, and Adam's the only other person on the planet that's ever run an actually official Walpurgis. By the way, anybody's welcome to run a Walpurgis. And oddly enough, I'm the only player in our group who has never died in a Walpurgis, because I've never played in a Walpurgis. I've always run them. But all that being said, that's the background of Walpurgis. We played it this week. I had an hour and a half to kill 6 player characters, and I did so. The first death was this guy. You want to tell him how you died, Adam?
Yeah, so there's a long-standing thing in Walpurgis of don't use any magic items you find. I gambled and lost. I was thinking, oh, he won't kill me the first magic item I take, so I put on a necklace of strangulation.
Yeah.
And I died.
And they were all asking, could they help? And I said, nah, it's Walpurgis, and he was stupid. Nope, can't help.
Yeah. And who was it that told you not to put on the magic item?
Didn't you call it a necklace of strangulation?
No, I did.
No, you did. Oh, yeah, okay, that's even worse.
You were calling it out, and you said necklace, and I said strangulation?
I said something to the effect of, why would you pick up a magic item in Walpurgis?
You did say that, but again, I tried to be smarter than the game.
Yeah, you lost.
Yeah.
It's a good try. And then we had an encounter with a beholder. And it was a standard beholder straight out of the monster manual. And just for fun, I rolled all the eye rays that attacked everybody in front of everybody. And May, one of our players, was hit with the disintegration. I should preface this. I had weakened everybody through the use of a Mordekainen's disjunction, which disrupts your spells and your spells and your magical items. And I had stripped out a lot of the protective stuff, so no +2 rings of protection, that kind of thing. I did that intentionally, so when it came time to save against, a beholder's disintegrate ray, the odds were lessened that you'd make it, and May didn't. May was disintegrated on a 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she rolled a 6.
She rolled a 6 saving throw and failed, so she was disintegrated. My next kill was my wife, Jerry, who also was disintegrated by the same beholder, by the disintegrate ray, rolled randomly in front of everybody, but she had the thrill of throwing a 1 for her saving throw, so she would have lost no matter what. And then the next 3 kills were?
Well, technically Craig was next.
Craig was next. I had 2 slicer beetles per surviving person, so there was a total of 6 slicer beetles.
Jeez.
Not beefed up at all, straight out of the book. Slicer beetles, if you're not familiar with them, I'll do a video on them sometime. They actually can snip off your limb as a sword of sharpness on a 19 or a 20. I was actually only doing 20s, by the way. I don't think I told you guys that.
No, you said a 19 or a 20.
You said
okay, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So 19 or 20 as the sharpness, and the first one I got was Craig, who lost his right arm, randomly rolled. It's 1 right arm, 2 left arm, 3 right leg, 4 left leg, 5 head.
Yeah, you did the Macarena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 6 goes over, or if you have a tail. Craig rolled for the right arm. His right arm dropped off. I cut his hit points in half. I gave him system shock, which he did pass. But basically, they just swarmed him at that time, and Craig was done. The next kill was...
Me. Same thing, Slicer Beetles, but he rolled a 5 and on a 19 and took my head off.
So I cut Craig's right arm off, I cut Pat's head off, and then the last kill of the night was Roy. And amazingly, Roy didn't die from any Slicer effect. He was just beaten to death by the Slicer Beetle's ordinary attack.
Despite the fact that Roy took more attacks from the Slicer Beetles than everybody else combined.
Yeah.
Yes, and I got Craig actually in the first 2 attacks.
Yeah.
And cut his right arm off. But yeah, I hit Roy probably 8 or 10 times.
Yeah.
And did not get a single Slicer effect on him, but beat him through attrition. Almost every Walpurgis has at least 1 or 2 kills that are through attrition. They just run out of hit points. In Walpurgis, by the way, healing doesn't work right. It can come back as damage. It can come back, if you try to resurrect somebody, they come back evil. And so that's a quick recap of our game. It was an hour and a half of what seemed like a normal game, and an hour and a half of me slaughtering the players. Fun?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to be sure to add, because it did come up this year, is don't ever say the name of any kind of deity or god in Walpurgis, because they've got a decent chance of actually appearing and just straight up doing whatever they want to the party.
Yeah.
That was actually a common kill at the old club where I started Walpurgis, because it was 10, 12 people. My biggest Walpurgis ever was 24 people, plus me DMing, and it was common for one of them to mention in-game one of the evil deities. And I warned everybody at the table, if I hear the word, whether you're saying it or you're talking to one of your friends out of the game, it doesn't matter. I'm counting that. So don't say any evil kind of deity or anything. And a couple of kids did in a big 24-person game. Interesting note on that one, I ran that in 1985, I believe. And of the 24 in a 4-hour game, 4 people survived simply because I ran out of time. So there are only 4 to ever have survived Walpurgis, and it was simply because I ran out of time. Was our former player, Jeff, my wife, Jerry, Craig, because he hid in a tree. Very smart, by the way. He knew I was busy with everybody else, so he just stayed put and hid in a tree. And another player that hasn't played with us in many, many years. Another Jeff, actually. There were 2 Jeffs that survived that night. So that's a little bit of background of Walpurgis, a recap of this year's Walpurgis. And then I've had some interest in some of my chump kills or chump encounters. And I wrote down a little short list here of some of my particular favorites. In the original Walpurgis in 1982 came about because I was looking for a way to kind of use some of the stuff that I had found that would be ridiculous within the playing of D&D. And that's some of the kills coming up that I'll mention. And I had done it originally as a town that was under siege by the forces of evil. So people were actually up on battlements fighting against these evil forces, but I had to come up with innovative ways to kill them. And I ran about 12 people in the first one. The second one turned, and oh, by the way, the first one did not count for anything. The second one I ran turned into a dungeon crawl, and it's been a dungeon crawl since. With one exception, I have done an occasional Halloween game that I have dubbed Walpurgis, but they weren't total kills. My favorite of those being the entire village turning out to be werewolves, and cornering the party in the basement of an inn, and they couldn't get to the party down the stairway, so they lit the inn on fire, and as it burned and collapsed around the players ran out through a root cellar and got out, but every one of them caught lycanthropy in that one. And that was an actually in-campaign game. That was a lot of fun, because I spent like the next 3 games, getting them cured of lycanthropy. But anyway, I digress. So, famous chump kills from my table only, famous only amongst us. Some of these you guys were present for, some of these predate you.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with number 1, which is not my number 1. These are in no particular order, but I do have a few that are more favored than others. But one of my favorites was reading the vampire entry. It occurred to me that vampires, of course, retain whatever class and skill they had in life, they retain into undeath. And I had the idea of having a monk vampire. Every time he hit you, he did his monk damage, and he drained 2 levels. I actually put 2 of those in the encounter. I got 12 or 14 levels out of that encounter. And this predates you guys. This is long ago. This was at past the club, but before these guys were born and playing. And I had a lot of fun with that one. And it was completely in the books. It's completely legitimate, but it's such a chumpy encounter. That's why I threw it in Walpurgis. So another one you guys were both present for. The 1 in 20. By the way, I didn't name all of these all the time. Oh, yeah, so you were at college.
Yeah, I was at school.
Adam was at school. Pat was present for it, the 1 in 20. And this was enacted as a curse on my player, Roy. And I told Roy, okay, you touched, I think it was a doorknob. In Walpurgis, anything can curse you. It depends on what the DM's mood is, which is always kind of vile. But that's the fun of it. And Roy had gotten cursed, and the curse was you had to save versus death. And only fail on a natural 1. That sounds easy enough. Roy picked up the dice, all assured that he was going to be fine. He had to roll 20 times. So he had to do 20-sided dice rolls and not roll 1, 1. And if he managed that, he was fine. The curse was broken. If he didn't manage it, he was irrevocably dead. That ended up being a lot of fun as he rolled. He made it to roll number 17 before he cranked the 1 and then died. And just for grins, he rolled 18, 19, 20, did not roll another 1. But statistically, he should have thrown a 1, and he did. Just for fun, at the end of that night, all the other players decided they were going to go ahead and roll it as well. Craig rolled. He got to number 17, and he rolled a 1 and didn't roll another 1 for the rest. So he and Roy would have both died on that sequence, which was interesting. Pat, what did you do?
I didn't roll a 1 through any of the 20 rolls.
And my wife, Jerry, also took her turn at it, and she did not roll a 1 through any of the 20 turns. So it was kind of funny. All were rolled out in front of everybody. Yeah. Everybody saw all the rolls. I just wanted statistics to drive the encounter, and they did. So Roy lost his character that way. One of my favorite of the Walpurgis kills. I always liked that one.
Yeah, that one was just straight up fascinating, just for the odds.
Well, just because you're expected to fail the roll doesn't mean you're going to
exactly.
fail the roll.
As the fact that Roy and Craig both failed on
17.
Roll 17. That was what was so strange about it. And cool.
If somebody can do the math on that, please do.
Yeah. They both failed on the same number in random 1 to 20. They failed on 17. So whatever that percentage is, it's very small, but it was fun. One of my next kills, which I didn't think that much of at the time, but has kind of become a touchstone at the table, is Craig had an incredibly mobile character, and I had a very hard time pinning him in place. So I came up with I consider one of my chumpiest kills. And he was a thief, and he was undoing a lock, and he had missed a trap legitimately. Walpurgis, I throw a ton of minuses on trap detection. He had missed it. The trap went off, and the trap was pressurized sovereign glue. I covered him head to toe, all on the front, in sovereign glue, and told him if he didn't move his feet, they were going to glue to the floor. That got a big laugh. It really did. I was surprised. And I realized sovereign glue comes in little tiny 1-ounce packs, and I know that. That's the whole point of Walpurgis. Find stuff in the rules, twist it and change it, and make it fun. I did. Craig was looking for, I'm going to teleport away. Fine. First off, teleporting in Walpurgis is a very dangerous activity.
Yeah.
And the second thing was the glue went with him. That was the whole idea behind it. No matter where he went, the glue was on him. And I believe he had some ultimate solution, but it was in a bag of holding that was sealed shut by the sovereign glue.
Yeah.
So
the eternal irony.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they ended up, and I ruled that he smothered and all that other stuff. And then, he had a necklace of adaptation, so he said correctly he wouldn't smother, and that's fine. So I had monsters come in and just eat a very sticky meal, like eating, a s'mores made of thief. So that was one that they liked better than I did, but it ended up being kind of famous. And then another one that I did actually like, this is one of my favorites. I called it 50 for 50. And Craig got hit with this one again. Craig was playing a paladin, 8th or 9th level.
Something like that.
And he had something like 80 hit points or something like that. I forget.
He was tough.
Yeah. I had given a few bonus hit points for various things throughout the course of the long campaign, and he picked up 1 or 2 of them. So he had really high hit points, 80, 85 hit points. So I had hit him with a curse, and the curse was every turn he had to deal out 50 points of damage, or he would take 50 points of damage. And by the way, if he dealt out 49, it didn't matter. He didn't take 1, he took 50. That was a lot of fun. Craig spent the last 45 minutes of his character's life kicking indoors, running from room to room, looking for stuff to kill. I wondered if, as a paladin, he would betray the party and he would go ahead and start attacking them. True to his character, he did not. He never attacked his character, the other player characters, but he ran running through the dungeon looking for things to fight. The problem with that was that left the rest of the party open to what they were fighting. I got a lot of guys through attrition on that one.
Yeah.
That ended up being a lot of fun. So that's one of my absolute favorites that I've come up with. One of my favorite nights, you guys might want to plug your ears because I'm going to do the voice. You weren't.
I wasn't there for that one either.
I was.
I did the living embodiment of Walpurgis. I named her Walpurgia. She talked like this through the whole game. Every time she talked, it was like this. Pat, what was your character going to do? Pat was playing a samurai.
I was going to commit seppuku.
I did that voice through virtually the entire game. I introduced Walpurgia in the first 20 minutes. I did that screechy voice. And it was a good party, and she was lawful good. And I had led them to believe that had they gotten her out of Walpurgis alive and untouched, that would end the curse of Walpurgis and the cycle would be broken. I made that clear. Yeah, I'd really do it. I knew they weren't going to get her out. I didn't care. So I made that little bet with them. And I got you guys pretty much through attrition and self-destruction that night.
I believe so. Yeah, the half an hour in when I was ready to just straight up kill myself, famously, my mom asked me if I would kill her character first, and I said, that's not how it works, and prepared to commit seppuku. Which got a big laugh out of Roy when I told him that story.
We're 5 minutes getting back to the game while Roy laughed. And that's what Walpurgis is all about. As you can tell, we have fun with it. It's silly. It's stupid. It's a lot of fun.
That is not how my character died that night.
No.
I ended up dying through attrition, just fighting nonstop, because with that voice around, I didn't care if I lived.
And one of the dumber ones I did, but was a lot of fun. Were you here for the Son of Caius?
Yeah, I was there.
The Sons of Caius, if you don't know, they're these worm creatures, and they are evil undead. And for various reasons, sometimes I try to do a Fall of Walpurgis without undead, just because undead is such a staple. Sometimes I see if I can do it without. But in this one case, I went ahead and included one undead, and it was a Son of Caius atop a slide. And if you get hit by the worms from a Son of Caius while you're fighting them, the worms have a really good chance of infecting you, and you eventually die and become a Son of Caius. And eventually, like a couple of rounds. Well, this particular Son of Caius rode the slide down as he went down the slide into a blade barrier. I saturated the party with the bits of Son of Caius, and they all had to roll saving throws. I got 2 of you with that one, if I'm not mistaken.
I know you got Mom's character with it.
Yeah.
I want to say you got Roy.
No, Roy got turned into a frog that game.
Yes,
That's
he did.
right. Yeah, he did.
I still think that was the 50 for 50 game.
I think that was.
Yeah, I think I got my wife Jerry with the Son of Caius, and I think I got Mike with it.
You got Mike.
I think it was Mike.
Oh, by the way, anybody
I die?
who's noted, Mike was not able to make the game, but he knew it was coming. I told him beforehand. I don't remember. I think you died through attrition.
I think so.
I think that was part of the kicking the doors and running through the thing.
Yeah.
I think that got you killed. But that's a quick look at Walpurgis. Mm-hmm. Just a house game I've done for 40 plus years. I don't do them every single year, although this is about 7 or 8 years in a row that I've done one.
Yeah.
I might have missed somewhere in like 17 or 18. Sometimes our schedules conflict, and I'll even do one after Halloween. 99% of the time, I'll do it before.
It's like the Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah, basically.
They don't always air on Halloween.
Yeah.
They're around Halloween, and that's kind of how we always look at it. That's why, whatever's going on, King Homer doesn't count for anything in the universe. It's just fun for the episode.
But I predate The Simpsons and Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah.
So, and this year, for various reasons, we're not all going to be together until close to Thanksgiving, and possibly not until after Thanksgiving, just the way everybody's schedules are falling.
Yep.
So I just wanted to get the game in this year. It was the first time I've ever surprised them at Walpurgis, which was very hard to do when I lived with 3 of the players.
Well, and he was rushing us along in the first half of the game, too. He's like, I gotta get this going, I'm on a strict time limit. We're like, what's your hurry? We just fought like 3 encounters.
I wouldn't allow any sidetracks, anything. Because I knew by 8:30 I had to be in Walpurgis mode. Because I needed an hour and a half. And actually, I killed you guys in just under an hour.
Yeah.
It started at 8:45 was the first death with you putting on the necklace.
Yeah.
And by 9:45, everybody was sucking floor.
Yeah.
And that's usual with Walpurgis. especially if a player is had a rough week or they're tired and they're looking to maybe check out early. I will sometimes focus on them to kill them early. Most times people stay. I know May wasn't.
Yeah, May
100%
wasn't
that
feeling
day.
well, so she left.
But she
right
she
after
died
got killed.
legitimately, but she
Yeah.
did leave, and that's happened many times
Yeah.
before. Perfectly acceptable. But a lot of times people just stay in kibitz while the other players get killed.
I'm morbid. I like to see the rest of the kills.
Well, yeah, because I like to see the creativity.
And I threw in the beginning of one of my favorite encounters, and then didn't come back to it. So that will be coming up either in a future Walpurgis or it might be in a future game. I haven't decided yet. It's not a kill so much as a, oh, that's a neat idea. So, and I've got one other kill that I just remembered this morning that I forgot to put in my notes. I told them about it. I'm going to save it. I may use it next year on Walpurgis, so we'll see. But that's really about it. I keep threatening the return of Walpurgia. I'm back!
I'll just get up and leave the table. I'm not dealing with that.
I don't need to be a samurai to commit seppuku in that game.
I couldn't talk for about 3 or 4 days after that one.
That serves you right.
Yeah, I was actually, I had foresight on that one because I just did that one 2 years ago. I think it was 22 that I did Walpurgia.
21 or 22.
Yeah.
I think it was 22 because I think
it was 22 also.
because I was still in school and I was there for 21.
Yeah.
Because that was the
Yeah.
Final Destination premonition.
Oh,
Right.
yes, that was
You're right,
the other one I
yes.
wanted to mention. I have my notes. Final Destination. Pat had been kind of binging the Final Destination films. If you're not familiar with this
We like the
series,
kills.
there were 5 of them.
Funny.
And in the 5 movies, people would get a premonition of their death. Someone would get a premonition of their death.
Yeah.
And then throughout the course of the encounter, there'd be a Rube Goldberg that would lead to the death. You'd think somebody's going to get cut in half by a sheet of plate glass, and in fact, they get killed in a propane explosion or something like that. Or a forklift drops a load on them and stuff. It's something completely out of left field.
My favorite is the pigeons and the plate glass window dropping on the kid.
Yeah.
The forklift in number 3 bothers me because I was forklift certified.
Me too.
I was like, any moron who followed basic safety procedures would not have died.
Doppelfair close.
Yeah.
I drove a forklift for 17 years.
Yeah.
I never managed that one.
But
And then,
as
of course,
I
the
always-
gymnast.
As I always
Yeah,
tell
the
these two, it's not about that. It's
Right.
about suspending disbelief
I'm
and
just like-
enjoying these hysterical kills.
So
Because
this,
I was working at Lowe's at
Right.
the time. I was just like, this isn't safe.
we may sound warped and twisted. We're not. We just let it out once a year. For,
Oh, we
for
are.
Walpurgis.
We are. Don't get
Um,
yourself.
But again, anybody who's out there who feels the need to point out that Walpurgis is actually an springtime celebration, that's fine. I know that. Samhain, as I used to call it phonetically, but Samhain is more akin to Halloween. I know that too. But I liked Walpurgis, and I just stuck with it as my title. So that's all the explanation I'll give, and I'll never apologize. It's fun, it's silly, and it's just something we do.
Yeah.
So anything else to add? I think we hit all my talking points.
Well, I wanted to say one of my favorite kills for one of my characters that's nearly impossible to kill.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
his character Skeletor.
Yes. Skeletor, yes, named for that Skeletor.
Yes.
Not the 80s version, though, the 02 version. I
No!
want to clarify that.
No!
He has a lot of magic. He has a lot of spells on him, as Skeletor should. But throughout the course of the game, I've been using everything down to even my spells that I never get to use that are backups and on backups on backups. And I was completely out of ammo, to quote Burt Gummer. And I was the last one standing.
Yep.
And a Dark Titaness showed up, and I had nothing to fight her with. So I drew my swords on her and started fighting, but she ended up beating me to death. That one was one of my favorites, just because I ran out of ammo.
He died of attrition. Dark Titans, I covered a few months ago under the creature features. So if you want to take a look at that, that's a creation of Craig, one of our players who DMs down again. That's one of his best jobs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they pop in Walpurgis because they're evil titans and they're just fun. But take a look at that video if you want to know what Dark Titan is.
Can I share a story about one of the kills that I ran?
Please.
So this was back in high school. This was like the first or second Walpurgis that I ran from my friends in my D&D group. Neither of them were involved. And early on in the campaign, there were some kobolds that were like haranguing them, but like one got away, and it just like was a recurring villain for them every now and again, just being a problem. Well, during the Walpurgis game, my one player was a paladin, and he was the sole survivor. He was the only one left. Everybody else had died. He walks into a room, and it's a blank room, like 20 by 20, and in the center of the room is a marble pedestal with a fishbowl on top. And he walks into the room. What's going on? From behind the door, the kobold appears and yells, "Asmodeus!" and skitters off. Asmodeus gets summoned into the room.
I haven't heard this story before.
Asmodeus gets summoned into the room, looks around confusedly, sees the paladin, picks him up by the ankles, and drowns him in the fishbowl.
I never heard that story. That's outstanding.
That is a legendary one among my friend group. Whenever we talk D&D, it's just like they all get a kick out of the Asmodeus fishbowl.
And as I said, it's about absurdity.
Yes.
It's about having fun. It's about giving your friends something to talk about at the next game. Also, I guess I should point out, teleports are only line of sight. Otherwise, you run a mammoth risk of, it's like an 80% chance you're going to appear inside something if you teleport outside of line of sight. Plane travel is absolutely constricted. You can't do it. I limit the mobility tremendously so I can keep them trapped in a dungeon situation. By the way, these do work in the woods too. I've used them in the woods.
Yeah.
And I did just think of another one that I did years and years ago. This is back at our old club, before you guys were even born. I had had some lawful evil fire giants. I don't remember. Lawful evil giants. Might have been fire giants. Who had trained as monks. And I threw 3 of them in, and I upscaled the damage as if it were a giant fist hitting you. I killed a bunch of players with that one. Because 3 giants fighting as monks, even at the time we were using the monk from Dragon number 52 at our table, it was still horrific. The vampires that I used in the vampire energy drain monk encounter, those were the ones actually from Oriental Adventures. They got like 3 shots around. And every hit was an instant drain because they're hitting with their fists or their foot.
Yeah.
I do allow them to drain. If a vampire snuggles with you, he can drain you. I think that's it.
There was a time when I was going to run Walpurgis with my friend group, but we never got around to it, sadly. And their encounter was going to be fighting King Ghidorah.
Well, that's easy. It's one encounter.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, done.
Yeah.
3 and 1, we're done.
But I had been, throughout the course of the campaign, giving them things that they could use to unknowingly fight Ghidorah, and we unfortunately never got to the final game.
Okay.
But there was going to be a Walpurgis game we never got to.
So that's it. Until next year, I've promised them, by the way, that there is no other surprise Walpurgis coming up in 2024. It was a one and done. I did it in September, first time ever. But it was the only way I could squeeze one in until possibly after Thanksgiving, and I won't do one that late. It would have just been a skip year. So I reassured them so they don't think I'm going to surprise them again in a week or something. No, this is it. We just did the one. But that's all we've got today on page 121. I thank my 2 guest stars. Arduous commute for these guys.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to come all the way from upstairs.
Yeah, 14 stairs, I think.
I had to come from my chair over there to be fair.
Okay, all right. Pat was already in the room when we started filming. And Adam had to put his lunch dishes away before we started. So, yeah, really tough commute for these guys. I want to thank you guys for taking the time, joining me with this. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know if... I've had a lot of people comment that they were going to start doing their own Walpurgis. Let me know if you do. And it'll work for any edition of D&D. Just look at all the stuff you've thought of as a DM and going, oh, I can't do that. It would be unfair. That belongs in a Walpurgis.
I ran one Walpurgis game in college where I told like a bunch of people who were playing in other campaigns and other game systems, I said, bring your character, I'll kill you anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I had 4 or 5 different game systems worth of characters. I don't care, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding. You can kill any character as the DM. That's why I've never worried about 18s, because it doesn't matter. I gave one guy all 18s across the board one time, just for fun, years ago. And he thought he was going to be invincible, and I think he was dead in a legitimate, straight-up game. And with the other players' approval, he kept saying, oh, if I had all 18s, you couldn't kill me. The other players said, sure. I gave him all 18s in a regular campaign. I think he was dead by 3rd level. And it wasn't through anything I did. It's just that doesn't matter. So it's more fun if the characters have some 18s. I always give at least 1. It's an auto at my table. If you're going to watch my create a character video, I'll talk about it there. But I always give at least 1 18. You can put it anywhere you want. But I think that's all we've got, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm done.
All right, guys, thank you. Happy Halloween early. And I get to relax. Walpurgis is the hardest game for me to prepare. I worked on this for 4 weeks. You guys didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I made sure that you were never around when I had key books out or anything like that. And put them away before anybody got home or whatever. I read it on my tablet or whatever I did on the computer. But that's it. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave comments, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Take a look at Patreon. Help us out there. I'm dragging in big-time talent, so you got to give me some props for that. And that's all I got for today on page 121. That's all we've got for today on page 121. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.